Epistemology. It's a word I didn't really know until a couple of years ago when I started working with the ACA. It's the study of belief, what we believe and why. You might think it's just academic, we bandy these words about, but we really do want to promote it, and it can do real world good. It links in with critical thinking, and on a recent trip I took back to my hometown, I was able to use it to effect good. Two people I love very much indeed were at loggerheads, having an argument, a disagreement so massive it was tearing their relationship apart. One of them was convinced that the other was sabotaging their life, taking steps to make them lose out on opportunities and joy. And I couldn't keep my silence. I stepped in and said, well, let's think about it. Why do you believe that? What reasons do you have to think that this person who, until this point, seemed to love you very much, now hates you? And it all came down to gut feeling and intuition. And when we actually objectively stepped back and examined what the evidence really was, there was no real grounding for this upset. Now, I don't know how much of an impact my words actually made in the grand scheme of things, but the day after, they'd patched the relationship up. Love was restored. Peace returned. So when we say we care about what people believe, we mean it. Because believing things for right reasons really does make a better difference in the world. But if you think that faith, instinct, or a gut reaction is a better way to seek truth, then do call us, because the show's starting now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Talk Heathen. Today is November 24th, 2024, and I'm your host, Scott Dickie, and joining me today is my favorite out of all the blind limeys, Jamie the Blind Limey. How you doing, Jamie?
I am sick, but I am here, and so you get raspy voice, Solid Snake Blind Limey for this recording.
All right. Well, that's better than no blind limeys, right?
Indeed.
And I knew I was going to say that about you, so I made sure to know at least one other blind limey, and neuroscientist Oliver Sacks, also a blind limey, my second favorite blind limey. So glad to have you, Jamie. I'm looking forward to being on the show with you today. Talk Heathen, of course, is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And we are live call-in show, and we have lines open. So give us a call. You can call us at 512-991-9242, or on your computer, you can call us at tiny.cc/callth. Before we get started on the show today, I wanted to bring up something kind of new we've been doing lately, and that's these super chat challenges. YouTube has this thing where you can send in a super chat, you throw a few bucks our way, and it'll give us a comment during the show. And so we've started doing these challenges. And so today we're going to have our super chat is if we get 10 super chats of each worth $5 or more each, then we will, then I'll show a picture of my dog. And in addition to that, my dog, who is a Welsh Corgi, will be captioned by our very own Jamie the Blind Limey using his very best Welsh accent. So if you want to see and hear that, then let's have those super chats start rolling in. All right. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about our Talk Heathen to Me segment. That's where we put a question out there and see what all of you have to say. So last week we asked you this question: without lying, market the Bible to drive sales. And here are our top 3 answers. Coming in at number 3 was Chuck Gatos. Chuck Gatos says the Bible, a 100% accurate account of what some people thought that some other people believed. And yeah, that's, I don't know, do you think that would drive sales? I don't know. I
mean, curiosity, perhaps. I don't know about sales.
That could be. Our number two answer was from Colin Matz, who says the Bible, a book so gruesome they could only film extracts.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
There are certain
there's a
certain
line
things
there.
in there. There are certain things that could only be put on certain websites that start with a P, end in a B, and I can't mention any further.
True enough. But our number one comment from last week was from Michael Kramer. Says, "What's in the Bible? Sex, violent, the undead, fantasy, and magic. You don't need more than that." And I couldn't agree with that anymore. I would buy a Bible if I didn't already have like two or three.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, exactly. So here's our prompt for this week. So send us in your best answers. I want you to give them in the comments below, not in the live chat to the side, but in the comments after the show. Answer this question. What do you think Jesus would say upon returning? Jamie, you got any thoughts on that?
Ta-da!
I always imagine Jesus making like a Todd Packer entrance, like in The Office, where he walks in, he says, "What's up, my nerds?" But I like Tada. I think that'd be a good one. Okay. Before we hit our first call, I would like to acknowledge a group of people who are working hard behind the scenes and making the show happen. That, of course, is our lovely crew. Let's hear it for the crew. Please give them some love in the chat and in the comments. People. Hi there to the crew. Boy, we got a full crew today. All right. So we have no excuses for an awesome show today. All right. So I think we have, boy, the calls are just rolling in. I think let's go with Gohan. No pronouns given, from Texas. Gohan wants to talk about a very touchy subject. Let's see. Gohan, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great today. Jamie, I think, is a little under the weather, but still up and kicking.
Oh, yeah. He's going to have to do more than that to me to get me to lie down. So what's on your mind then, Gohan?
All right.
Yeah. Hopefully you start to feel better. All right. I wanted to talk about abortion.
Okay.
Okay. About anything specific about it, or what are your thoughts? What's your position?
So I'm going to give my position in a second, but the way I see it, abortion, like the discussion on abortion usually breaks down into two arguments, either about personhood or about bodily autonomy. And I think, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think my position addresses both. So my position is you should be able to kill any human organism when it reaches a high risk of severe harm, but not before that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And so I want to hear if we can tie this to the religion aspect. Is your belief based off of your religious beliefs? I see that you're a theist. Is this based off your religious beliefs, or is there some other reason that you're in this position?
Yeah, good question. I'd say no, it's not. I would say if I became an atheist today, I'd still be pro-life tomorrow. There are plenty of pro-life atheists out there, ranging from Christopher Hitchens to secular pro-life. And they all, in my opinion, except for Christopher Hitchens, who's gone, unfortunately, but all do good work currently.
Okay. All right, Jamie, what's your thoughts on the subject here?
So it's actually, they're linked. And what I'll do, just straight out of the gate, I will grant to you, I'll give you all the toys, as they say, that as soon as sperm meets egg, then that is a person, right? And that brings us down to bodily autonomy, because I think bodily autonomy is the most compelling argument against forced birth, as I'd like to call it. It is the most compelling argument for access to abortions, because you can't force someone to use their own internal organs and bodily resources to preserve the life of another. You can't. Not legally, not ethically. And by granting fetuses special consideration, you're then giving things like corpses more rights than women. And I don't care that if you could even say, oh, it's their fault, they were promiscuous, or they weren't careful enough, or whatever. It doesn't matter. If I walked up to Scott right here and stabbed him in the kidneys and I was the only viable donor, they can't force me to give him my kidneys. And they shouldn't be able to. And that's pretty much an end of it. Is it unfortunate that a potential life may not come to fruition? Yes, but you can't force a woman to use her womb for someone else in any circumstance. The same way you couldn't force me to use my liver to filter someone else's blood.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Jamie's take there. You mentioned two issues. You mentioned the bodily autonomy issue and the personhood issue. My take is, like I said, pretty much the same as Jamie's. I would say that personhood is an important issue. Is this a person we're talking about? And we're talking about the fetus in this case. Whether or not that becomes a person is an important question. My general take is once that person can survive on their own, once they become their own entity, that's when they gain individual rights. You know, prior to viability, they're really kind of part of the pregnant person in this case, and so they do have rights, but as part of the collective, as part of the whole. Yeah. I think the personhood issue, though, really only affects how we would deal with the issue. For example, I think the bodily autonomy argument trumps any kind of personal issue, personhood issue. I think that even if we do decide that this is a person with individual rights that's growing inside of this other person, I don't think any person has a right to inhabit another person's body against their will. To me, that is that kind of takes priority over any of the other issues. Mm-hmm. Whether or not the fetus is considered a person, I think that would affect how you do the abortion, whether or not you're going to destroy the tissue or whether or not you're going to deliver a viable baby is a separate issue. And so but that would never take priority over the pregnant person's bodily autonomy.
Yeah, giving birth is technically an abortion. It is the termination of a pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's just the end of a pregnancy.
Right. Gohan, what are your thoughts on that?
So, no worries. I was going to say, I think based off of both of y'all's responses, we can, it sounds like there's still maybe a disagreement about personhood, but I think it's safe to say maybe we could disregard that argument and just go into the bodily autonomy argument. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Sure. That's where I'm coming from. Yep.
Okay. And if either of y'all would like to go into the personhood argument, I'm more than willing, but for right now, we'll just move aside from that.
Well, like the personhood argument comes into it because the fact that abortion laws are becoming so restrictive and doctors are becoming so skittish around doing proper prenatal care that it's costing women lives. It's costing women dignity as well. Yeah. One of the statistics that blew my mind when I saw it, and it's backed up, is that since Roe was overturned, 103 women and girls a day in the US, not a month, not a year, a day, are forced to give birth to their rapists' babies. A day. You don't find that morally reprehensible, Gohan?
So do you want me to respond to that question or respond to the bigger argument? It's up to you.
As I say, I mean, you choose which way. It's your call. I just wanted to make a point of that because that disgusts me. But anyway, after you.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm in the minority when I say rape is terrible. I don't agree that rapists should get the death penalty, but I do think they should get life in prison without parole and let that be the end of it. As far as for the kid that was created from the rape, let me ask you, why do they deserve the death penalty for something their father did?
Well, I don't think it's a death penalty for something their father did. I don't think that it's a life that, let's say, let me tell you this. A father, a horrible father, despicable father, beats his kid to near death. The kid is in critical condition and needs an organ transplant, and the only viable donor is the mother. should the mother be legally compelled to give her organs to that child?
I would, if I can have a quick response really quick, I'm going to say no. And the reason
So
is
why does she have to use her womb for the violence of the father?
Sorry, I was just about to try to answer that. The difference is organ donation and abortion are not the same. Organ donation is about saving a life. Abortion is about killing a life. So
no, you are continually preserving a life. To remove that means the life ends, and it would be the same as if you're providing blood transfusions or allowing someone to hook their organs into yours, using you as a sort of human filtration system.
That's like saying if I get stabbed by somebody, the person who stabbed me is going to get in trouble, not only for stabbing me, but also for not giving me their blood. That's absurd. They should only get in trouble for stabbing me. They only have the responsibility of not killing me. They do not have the responsibility of saving my life. Same goes for the fetus and the birth mom. If you don't want to save that life, fine. Just don't kill it. That's all I'm saying. Don't kill that.
So that's not an option before 24 weeks most of the time, and so why should they be forced to do that? You know, are you potentially suggesting we make sex like sex a legal issue? Like, oh no, you got to make sure that you're licensed to bone. I don't know. If the crime is having sex, you know, like creating, like having a pregnancy, like, and the consequences, you know, the determination of the fetus is the equivalent of the blood transfusion. I mean, I'm not seeing where this is meeting, man. I mean, I really don't agree with you.
So it seems like it's almost like a trolley problem issue where it makes a distinction between actively causing harm versus passively allowing harm to happen. So let me ask you this, Gohan: if the embryo or the fetus could be removed alive, even though you knew it would die immediately after being removed, then you'd be okay with that, apparently, according to your logic. Is that right? If they were alive when it was, if it was alive when it was removed, and then died as part of natural progression, then that's okay. That's just unfortunate. They're of no responsibility to maintain that life by continuing the pregnancy. Is that so? Would you be okay with that then? That type of abortion where they remove the fetus, and then if it dies on its own, then that's it?
That's very close to my my standpoint, but it's not there, because once you remove that fetus, it is by every single definition a born human being. And now it requires life-sustaining assistance. And whoever made the decision to take away that life-sustaining assistance should be in trouble. Same as if you threw a baby in the water and said, yeah, I'm not going to save it at this point, but you can't get mad at me for putting it in an environment in which it can't survive.
So what you're saying is that if you can give life-saving assistance, you're morally obligated to do so? Is that it?
No, you're not allowed to remove life-sustaining assistance from somebody who has not consented to that.
Well, legally, up until a child, not just a fetus, a child is of age, their guardian is their consent giver. There are many people on life support who can't give consent, but have given power of attorney to other people. Plenty of people die in this country, not by their own consent, but by the wishes of their family, because they don't have the capability of giving consent. So if we take that logic, the mother has every right to say, I don't want this child to be this child, a fetus, an 8-week-old fetus, to be provided the life, to have the life-sustaining care on them. And that's their legal right. They can do that.
I mean, if you're going with consent as being the main thing, then maybe you have an argument. I'm also against, what's it called? Death under anesthesia. No, what's it?
Euthanasia?
Medical assistance in dying. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I disagree with you on that as well. I think people should be allowed to die when they want to die.
For sure. Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think that's a minor point that we can discuss later. But I would like to discuss more the major point of you're not allowed to kill a human organism unless there's high risk of severe harm.
So do you think there's a difference between like some human cells and a human being? Or are you making a distinction when you use that word, being?
Yes, so I'm trying to be as scientific as possible. That's why I'm not using the word being, because that's a philosophy term. But if we stick to the hard science of biology and just use human organism, that cuts through a lot of the discrepancies of what we're talking about. So that would eliminate like cell tissue. Like I've called in before and somebody was like, yeah, when I brush my teeth, I'm killing a lot of humans. You're killing a lot of human cells, but none of those are human organisms. So I'm talking about human.
So when does a fetus become a human organism? Scientifically,
when
in
does
your
that
opinion?
transition happen?
Before. It happens before it's a fetus when it's a zygote. The moment
It's not going to be able to survive outside of its mother's womb. Surely viability should be the cutoff line, because a human organism, by definition, is one that is able to survive, like live independently.
Or that would at least be at a stage of development where it would normally be able to maintain viability. There's a difference between not being non-viable because it's underdeveloped versus being non-viable because of some kind of disorder or something.
You guys are. I'm going to try not to be rude, but you guys are both incorrect. We don't
Correct about what?
Organisms based on viability. We don't classify organisms on viability. We classify them based on their DNA. So when
I've got human DNA in. Like, should I be convicted of manslaughter every time I have a wank? There's plenty of human DNA in there.
I just talked about this. None of those are organisms. Those are.
They're all potential babies, though. They could have all been babies. What about fertilized eggs that? What about fertilized eggs that are naturally flushed because they don't attach? That's a fertilized egg there. It naturally, but it didn't attach to the uterine wall. Should the mother's every girl's period be analyzed to make sure there isn't a dead potential baby in there?
That could be most pregnancies, by the way.
Did you purposely kill that fertilized egg? If you did not purposefully kill it, then that's not a part of the conversation. But if you did purposefully kill that human organism or fertilized egg, same thing, then yes, that's what I'm against.
So intent is important, is what you're saying? So then, if they have the fetus removed without the intent of killing it, and then it dies of natural causes, then that's okay, right? That's
let's
where your logic is.
Is at high risk of severe harm, and she removes the fetus because she's at high risk of severe harm, and tries to make the fetus live. Her intent is not to kill the fetus.
But let's say there's no risk there's no risk of severe harm. Even though in every pregnancy there is some risk, right?
Oh yeah, and pregnancy is not easy. Pregnancy is a fucking trauma.
Even if we're disregarding that, okay.
Yeah,
so if somebody who's pregnant, they want this, they want it taken out, and they have it taken out alive, and then it dies.
So I'm saying most of the time pregnancy does not have high risk, but it always has risk.
You fucking what, man?
So you're asking about when it does not. You're asking when it does not have high risk, when it just has a normal amount of risk for a pregnancy. Is that correct? I just want to be clear.
That didn't answer my question, though.
And also, I would like to make it clear.
Yeah.
Gohan, stop. Gohan, just for a sec. Terminating a pregnancy is not killing. It is removing life-sustaining organ from an organism, but it is not an act of killing. It is not inducing death. You are misappropriating. Abortion is not killing.
Say that again. What?
Terminating a pregnancy.
Abortion.
Terminating a pregnancy is not killing. It doesn't. It is at most removing life-sustaining function from another organism, which is perfectly legal.
At most.
Yeah.
At most it's that, yeah.
At most, but it is not killing.
Sure. Can I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Can you tell me one time when a successful medical abortion happened when the human organism was not killed before they came out of the mother?
Every premature cesarean section, 24 weeks and on. A bunch of them happen. Preemie babies come out all the time. That's an early termination of a pregnancy.
Medical abortion, that's a live birth where the preemie dies.
No, it's a medical abortion is any medical procedure that terminates a pregnancy. Yeah. If the fetus continues to live, then it's called a birth.
Yes. So excluding births either with...
Oh, no, is that sound of goalposts being moved? I hear the squeaking wheels.
Let's set aside those examples. If we just focus on these...
Where am I trying to move the goalposts? Away from live births?
You said medical abortion, a medical procedure to terminate a pregnancy early, and delivering a premature baby through cesarean section meets that criteria.
Is that a live birth? Is that a live birth?
It's still a medical termination of a pregnancy. It becomes a live birth if the procedure is successful.
What Jamie is saying is that a live birth could be a form of medical abortion. It terminates a pregnancy.
I mean, it is, right? Because abortion is just defined as a termination of pregnancy. So, I mean, technically he's right. It is defined as that, but clearly I'm not talking about live births. So I just want to make sure. Yes.
So your question was completely facetious then, Gohan. Can you give me one example of when a completely unviable fetus was removed from the uterus and miraculously became viable? No, obviously not. And that's not a gotcha. That's a dumb question. Apologies for being a little bit spiky. I'm not in the mood to suffer fools today.
No, that's not. I'm just trying to establish what I'm talking about. I'm not trying for a gotcha. Just want to establish. I'm talking about when a fetus is killed inside the womb. And
not killed.
Comes out.
Not killed. Die. It doesn't even die. Its functions terminate. It's not even really a life yet. Remember, it's not killing.
Yeah, killing. That's kind of smuggling the conclusion in a little bit there.
Yeah, begging the question.
Was there a human life there before?
Human life, though. So that has to. That's going back to that personhood question. You said before that you thought personhood begins at conception. Is that what you said? So that's a fertilized ovum is a person. Yes. Whenever a zygote is formed, every scientific definition, 95% of biologists say that is a human.
So what is their reasoning? It's a nascent human organism that has not yet grown. I wouldn't call it a person. I can't go down to a flipping pub with it. Well, what did the scientists say? What was their argument? Because quoting scientists only has value in that scientists usually have reasons behind their conclusions. Just saying a scientist says a thing that doesn't really do it for me, right? So I want to know the reasoning. If all scientists agree on this, then it should be pretty easy for you to come up with the explanation. So what exactly is the reasoning behind that? Because I don't think it's as tied to unique DNA as you suggest. Because, for example, most pairs of identical twins have identical DNA, yet we still count them as two people. Also, within your body, every cell in your body does not have the same DNA. There are reproduction errors and things like that. And so you actually have a variety of different genomes in your body right now as we speak. But still, we only consider you to be one individual, right? So I think that personhood is not just a function of the amount of DNA that somebody has or the nature of that DNA or the uniqueness of that DNA. There has to be something more. Is that just because that's a convenient point to select that will support your position, or is there reasoning behind this position that you're taking?
I mean, No, I appreciate the question because this is not something I talk about a lot, and it is 100% fair to bring up. So I would say when we classify an organism, we don't do it based off its looks or location. We do it based off its DNA. So first we have to establish if X, whatever we're talking about, is an organism. Is a zygote an organism? Yes. Then we have to.
So you would say twins are an organism, then, right?
Yeah, I would say twins are organisms.
An organism, one, right? Because they only have one unique DNA between the two of them.
No, I'm saying there are two organisms. I haven't gotten into DNA yet. I'm just talking about what classifies an organism.
Right. Well, you mentioned DNA as the reason for that classification, and so I just want to make sure that we're consistent here.
Sorry, the DNA does not classify if you're an organism or not. It classifies which organism you are. Like, okay, my DNA says I'm an acorn. No, my DNA says I'm a wolf. No, my DNA says I'm a Homo sapien. You can tell that based on the DNA. You can tell what kind of organism it is. So it doesn't matter what step you go first. Either if you establish first it's an organism or first it's human being. I don't have a preference. So then whenever you're talking about multiple cells in your body,
but you said that at conception is when the ovum becomes a person, becomes an organism.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the justification for that?
So that's when the DNA is formed, whenever a zygote is there. So fertilization is complete when the DNA in the cell has completely formed. That's when fertilization is done. So that's
right. What I'm asking is why do you put the cutoff point there? And I ask this knowing, we've been on the call for, 20 plus minutes here. So I do want to kind of an ending point for us to discuss here. So why choose that point as the demarcation line for personhood?
So that point is not the demarcation line by itself for personhood. That's the point to establish whether it's a human or a wolf, just based on the DNA. And then you establish personhood if it's a human organism. So we know based off the DNA it's human, and if it's an organism, hey, you got yourself a human organism. Most of the cells
you're gonna have to define organism there, mate, because up until that point, all those criteria also just apply to cancer. Complete human DNA, growing, sustaining from a body, like you've just described. You've just described a lymphoma,
and it would also describe an unfertilized egg as well. Unfertilized eggs can be identified as human or canine or whatever.
So I'd like to talk about both of those really quick. A cancer is not an organism. It usually starts off as a cell, and if worst case scenario happens, it can grow into a tissue, but it's not an organism. There's different levels of hierarchy. You start with cell. The highest level you can get to is an organism. Cancer is not a cell. It's not an organism. It is a cell, possibly tissue, but it does not become an organism. And then as far... Sorry, you brought up something.
Thing is, Gohan, as I say, we've been on this call for 25 minutes. I would like you to call us back. I would like you to go ahead, and I'll do this myself. I'm going to go and find a definition of the word, what the definition of the word organism is. I want to talk to some. I know a biologist. He's got funny hair. I'll ask him what defines an organism, and then maybe we can reconvene. But we've gone off in several different directions here, so perhaps this would be best served in another call. So if I'm back on again, or Scott, I think it might be good for
definitely. Yeah, I think that I'd like to hear a little bit more detail on how you come up with that demarcation line. You talked a little bit about DNA, and then you kind of pushed away from that, and then you were talking about. It seemed like to me like you were hinting that there was a functionality component too, as far as being an organism. And I think that's kind of the same position I'm on as well. I think that functionality, being able to survive, being able to fulfill the requirements of what we call an organism. I think that's part of it. And so, yeah, so like Jamie said, I'd like for you to think on that a little bit more, and then maybe give us a call back at some point when we can look more specifically at that difference there. What do you think about that?
2% inside the definition of organism, and
right.
zygote does meet that. But I understand we're short on time. Maybe we'll talk about this another time.
Call us back.
Okay.
I do appreciate the conversation, and
okay.
Well, I guess that's it. Have a good day, you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Gohan. It was thanks for calling. I appreciate that. Before we step into our next call, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. As many of you know, we've initiated phase 2 of our brick fundraiser. We want to highlight some of the standout orders that we've received. This week's featured brick is from Tom and Rhonda from Kentucky. Tom and Rhonda put on their brick in memory of all oppressed people. Tom and Rhonda. So thank you, or sorry, Tim and Rhonda. Tim and Rhonda, thank you so much for your donation there. We want to hear from all of you. We want to know things that you liked about the show, things that were effective, or more importantly, things that we could improve on. So you feel free to email us at atheist-community.org and let us know your thoughts, good and bad. So let's go on to another call here.
I'm thinking Eduardo.
Eduardo. Okay, yeah, let's talk to Eduardo here. Let me, for some reason, this Gohan's call is not dropping for me. Okay, so I think I got it now. I don't want to accidentally screw something up here. All right, Eduardo. Let's talk to Eduardo. Eduardo is he, him pronouns. Eduardo is from Brazil. And Eduardo wants to talk about theists and atheists are both as close to the truth as possible. We're just seeing it from different perspectives. So it's kind of we're all the same, me too kind of argument from a religious standpoint. So Eduardo, are you with us? Eduardo, let me try this again here. Are you with us now, Eduardo?
Hello.
There you are. All right, from Brazil. Thank you.
It's right. It's not quite that. Actually, it's because when you have to give a point, you have to sort of summarize. My impression is actually that, I don't know if you heard of the fable, The Blind Man and the Elephant.
The fable of the what in the elephant?
Oh, yeah, there's the blind man, and one person touches the skin and thinks it's a crocodile. One touches the trunk and says it's a snake. And
I'm familiar with that.
Touches the leg, I think it's a tree, and the other one touches the trunk and think it's the snake.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a very little to go upon. Actually, I'm a spiritist, and it's atypical because it's a religion that's the principal aim is doubting, is actually searching for knowledge, searching for truth. And I started to, I did it all my life, but I started to think a little more on that. I started to watch your programs and reading a little about atheism and then about Heathenism and all things I could lay my hand on, actually.
Well, Eduardo, let me ask you a question here. Did you
Right.
Sorry, Eduardo, we got a little bit of a lag here, so I don't mean to talk over you. But Jamie was talking about in his cold open about epistemology, about the idea of the methodology that you use to come up with your conclusions can be just as important, or sometimes even more important than the conclusions themselves. So in the notes for your call, it says that theists and atheists are both as close as to the truth as possible. So I agree with you that we're looking at things from perhaps a different perspective, that we're taking different approaches here. you seem to be hinting that we're both being just as effective in finding the truth. Do you have any reason for thinking that's the case? Because surely you would agree that even if we have two people that don't have the actual truth or don't have direct access to the truth, there could be one party that is more correct or more closer to the truth than the other. So giving that a possibility, how can you justify thinking that we're all kind of in the same position here?
Well, that's why I actually use the analogy of the blind man and the elephant, because nowadays, at least somebody who is not deep into religious dogmas, we basically utilize rational thinking. In school, it's fine, but every time, we do have experiences that are not provable, and
okay.
That's why I think that I know I didn't hear the opening, but I got the idea of epistemology. I was with the course here, but I get the idea. But it is there are many ways to arrive at the truth. Some more reliable, some less reliable. But at the same time, I particularly think about that because, I mean, that's one of the other reasons that I think about that.
Well, let me ask you something, Eduardo. I want to expand on your.
I have to take it off.
I want to expand a little bit on your elephant analogy. So you said that. So we have a bunch of people in the dark, and they're reaching out to learn about reality in front of them. One of them touches what they think is a tree trunk. One of them touches what they think is a snake, and so forth, and the ear and the tusk and all these different things. But let's also consider perhaps another group of individuals that are doing the same thing. They're all in the dark as well. They're reaching out, and one of them is in front of a tree and reaches out and touches a tree trunk. One of them does, in fact, have a snake in front of them. And so in that case, they are seeing different things. And so how can you tell which case we're in? Are we in the case where we're all looking at the same thing and coming to different conclusions? Or are we in the other case where we actually have different things that we're looking at and that we're coming to different conclusions for good reasons? What do you have any comment on which of those two scenarios you think we're in and why?
Actually,
I'm sorry, I was talking over there. Repeat that, please.
Actually, I do think that we are in the first scenario, actually, because we are sort of, and I agree, epistemology is important. So there are longer ways to find the truth, there are lower ways to find the truth. But the questions are all the same, really. Where we came from, where we are going, or if anywhere.
So let's pick a concrete example. Let's pick one thing. Sorry, Jamie's been sitting patiently.
There's something I want to interject here, Eduardo, and I think there's a fundamental flaw in the premise that we're discussing, because people can be atheists for bad reasons, right? Now, I'm a skeptic first. My atheism comes from my skepticism.
Right.
So, and being a blind person, I can't trust my perception. So if you want to actually use that analogy, what a true skeptic would do is touch this thing and say, well, what is it? Well, I don't know. Let's investigate further. And here's the thing. If you start making conclusions based on incomplete evidence...
I'm not laughing at you.
What?
I'm not laughing at you. It's just, I'm not laughing at you. Maybe you heard me laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm going to say, and sorry, I didn't use for that, but I'm blind, actually. And you don't want to do that. Trust me, you don't want to do that. I've touched a rat without knowing what it is. You got to be careful with that.
Well, I am careful. I mean, but here's the thing. So if you are indeed fully black-blind or severely visually impaired, you understand that that perception is massively flawed. And so you don't trust it on its own. You also don't make assumptions. That's dangerous. And the problem with the atheistic outlook on life in terms of the truth of whether a God exists is that it always seems to come down to gut feeling and assumption over evidence. And I much prefer to wait for actual evidence. So I don't agree with you. I don't think that theists, people who believe there is a God, are significantly closer to the truth. They may believe they are, but they have no more evidence for a God than I do. Or maybe they are both as close to the truth, which is nowhere near. There isn't any compelling evidence for a God as far as I can see. And if that's the truth that you're looking for, fine. But if you're talking about other truths, like where did we come from? How did life come to be? There's loads and loads of evidence out there from secular sources, from science. But every explanation put forward by religion has always been proven to be laughably false. So I completely disagree with your statement that theists and atheists are as close to the truth as each other, because religious explanations for natural phenomena are almost always completely inaccurate.
And I would add on to that, if we want to say that atheists and theists are equally close to the truth, at the very least, we have to have a rough idea on how close to the truth they are individually. If we want to compare them, that's one thing, but we need to have some idea on how close to the truth we're talking about. Do you have any comment on that, Eduardo?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'm on a bit of a delay. That's the thing. I do think that we are still in the dark, even knowing most of things nowadays. Of course, we know how the human being is made. That you had that discussion at the beginning. I don't really want to touch that, but we know how it works. But
my question was more to the why than the what. I mean, I feel I have a pretty good grasp of what you're talking about here. I want to know why do you think that theists are close to the truth at all, much less equally close to the truth as some other group?
I'm getting there. Because the what is kind of the why. Because okay, so we know things by using science that 100 years ago we used science and we thought it was wrong. It's simple. It's 100 years ago, people wouldn't even know. I mean, people would see that, but they wouldn't even classify intersex, be the one or the other.
So because science being able to change its conclusions based on better evidence and methodology is a feature, not a bug. The Earth being created in 6 days by a magic sky man was wrong when the book was written, and it's still wrong now.
Yeah, but that's something that's usually, but that's the other thing. We have explanations. And here says is when I say that we are closer, as close as we don't know if they exclude each other or they complete each other. What was a day at the time? What was and I know you talk about for example, the sun that comes after the light and the planets, and that's absurd. But did it?
So what can you say as far as the why though? I asked you, how do we know that? Why would we think that any particular group is close to the truth? I mean, what would be a good way to assess that? Let's say we have a group of people, they make a claim, and we want to decide if they're true. Do we turn to another group and say, well, they can't do this, You know, does it make sense to do something like that? I asked you how to justify the claim that theists or spiritualists or whatever you want to call it are close to the truth at all, and you started talking about atheists. So what I'd like to do is, do you have any kind of positive claim, or do you have positive argument? Do you have anything that would kind of push you towards that conclusion that you are in fact onto some truth here?
Yeah. I mean, I have for my religion. I can't speak for any others, because we believe that actually because we believe in three revelations. Almost didn't get that out. So the First Testament, the Second Testament, and then the books by Allan Kardec. You can research that later, maybe. Anyway, so
I haven't heard of because yet. I haven't heard of because. I would like to hear what comes after the because.
Because I'm telling that because is this. Usually, each iteration, let's say, of explanation of religion, it has to satisfy the how can I say this, the acceptation of the day. So people only believe in this, literally the things of the First Testament because they were probably taught to believe since they were a child, but you know, somebody who is out of that, I don't want to call brainwash because
I still haven't heard of because yet. I still haven't heard of because. So people believe this because of what?
There is, because that's the thing. Those tests are those myths they are the starting point for science. Science tried to disprove that. At the beginning, they were trying to prove it. Now they try to disprove it.
Okay,
and,
so are you saying that's reason to believe? Are you saying that we should believe it's true because science has not proven that it's false?
Maybe. I mean, maybe in the sense that.
Interesting. Okay, so let me ask you another question then. Hold on one second, Eduardo. I want us to just sit on that for a moment. So you're suggesting, I asked you, do you think it's justifiable to believe something merely because it hasn't been proven otherwise? And you said maybe. And so I appreciate the fact that you're struggling with this question and that you're trying to put some thought into it. And I really like that. And I enjoy hearing that from a caller. Let me ask you another side question then. What if I were to tell you that yesterday I proved that there was no God? Okay, let's say I say yesterday I presented all this evidence and I created this rock solid argument that there is no God. Can you prove that I did not make that argument?
No, but I would.
Okay, so you can't prove that I didn't make the. So does that mean that you should believe that I did make the argument?
Well, I can come back to that.
A little different, isn't it? A little different when it's on your when it's coming from the other side.
I was there, man. The proof was amazing. So now it's two of us.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen. I don't believe that actually. I mean, I just believe because of the way you were saying that, but I don't just believe that because it would be for me to see.
Okay, so then that puts us back in a position where we don't have any evidence supporting the God belief. If so, we started out with, well, science has been after all this time, science has been unable to disprove that the existence of a God, but now we've kind of stumbled on this together, right? That type of argument just doesn't hold water. You're right. You can use the same kind of argument and you'll come up with contradictory conclusions. That means that there's some kind of at least one of your assumptions was off the mark or incorrect. And so we can set that aside. So then that leaves us still without any evidence supporting the God conclusion. Or is there something else you haven't mentioned yet?
But no, I actually sort of know what you guys are going to say to that. I do believe that the things we don't know yet. I believe that the fine-tuning argument, and I kind of know that you're going to say that we are full of defects and all kinds of things, but I do think that we are actually still being built. Yeah, I'm sorry for it. That's my Portuguese coming in. We are still being built. I don't know. You know what I mean.
I mean, so my argument against the fine-tuning argument isn't Eduardo. My argument against the fine-tuning argument isn't necessarily that there's a lot of stuff that's inefficient or bad or like God may have built these flaws into the universe for some reason, like the built-in flaw in the Death Star, whatever. But we have one universe that we can look at. We have no others to compare it to. And so we can't determine whether it's designed or not because there is no evidence of design because you can't say, we don't have any other universes to compare it to. We don't know what the design methodology for a universe would be. It's just an assumption that it's designed. And complexity or simplicity aside, because we can only perceive this one universe and we have nothing else to compare it to and no external evidence to guide us on that, we can't come to the conclusion it was designed. We just have to say, we don't know.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying we don't know. There would be nothing wrong if those 4 people in the dark that are feeling something in front of them, it's okay for them to say we don't know because they can't tell if they're in the group that has the elephant or in the group that has the tree trunk and the snake and the fan or whatever the ear was supposed to be, And so if we don't know, then it's not really rational to say anything beyond we don't know. Would you agree with that?
Actually, I agree with you. I agree with you, but most people don't even realize that they don't know. Even theists, atheists, all you're talking about religion here, theists and atheists, but most people don't even realize that they don't know. They are pretty sure because the fable, back to the fable, is this. They don't go off to see the elephant. They meet it on the middle of the road. They are blind. They're totally blind. It's an Indian fable, actually. And they meet that. And then they say, well, that's a tree. And then the other one says, that's a wall. The one touches the trunk says, that's a snake. They don't even know.
So in that case, they were wrong, right? They were wrong.
But that's what I mean. Most people are wrong, and nobody's really that.
So do you think that's supporting your case, or do you think you're actually undermining your case here at this point?
I think I'm supporting my case, but I think I'm undermining it.
Jamie, did you want to? I didn't want to interrupt you there.
Yeah, it was just the whole with this. Again, we got a bunch of people who don't know what an elephant is, trying to get they can't possibly know the correct answer unless they know. But if they know what an elephant is, if these 4 blind people actually know what an elephant is, they may be able together to come and say, "Well, I'm feeling something that feels like a tree. Well, I'm feeling something that feels like a snake. Well, I'm feeling something that feels like a wall. I'm feeling something that feels like a fan." But we're all feeling the same thing. So if we take all of those things and put them together, then perhaps we can come up with an elephant. But beside the point, the whole thing is that you're just showing that people's perceptions are fallible and that to draw conclusions without proper evidence is a bad idea. And by definition, atheists, for whatever reason they don't believe in a God, are drawing one less conclusion from an assumption than theists. I don't assume there is a God. Theists do. So by very definition, according to Occam's razor, atheists are more likely to be correct because they're making less assumptions.
Is that clicking with you, Eduardo? Or is that making any sense?
Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm calling. I want to be refuted. If I was going to call to be agreeable, I would just go somewhere else. I mean,
Okay.
I'm still not convinced, but I'm gonna figure it because sense it makes. That makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, so you're open to exploration. I think that's awesome. Eduardo, I want to thank you for your call. It was very nice talking to you, and I appreciated that you called in, and maybe we can talk again some other time.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent. Righto.
Okay, so before we go on to our next call, we have some business we need to take care of. A couple of things here. First of all, if any of you out there want to get more involved with what we're doing here, aside from calling the show and that kind of thing, you can come if you're in the Austin area. We have a meetup. You can check out our meetup at tiny.cc/ACA meetup. We have all kinds of activities that we do through the ACA. We have the philosophy under the stars. We have our game nights and all kinds of activities. We also have weekly watch parties at the Free Thought Library and on Sundays for live viewings of Talk Heathen and the other show that comes on after us, Atheist Experience. The doors open at noon. And it's a great place for people to come in to, have community and just be together as we watch the shows. And of course, we also have the option of sending in super chats. And I know we've been accumulating a few super chats here. So I'm going to call on my partner in crime here, Jamie, the blind Limey. Please, if you'd be so kind to read us some of our super chats.
Okay. So the first one up is Frankenstein, $10. Now, this is something I actually was trying to learn, and I haven't quite gotten it. But please say, Llanfair Pushkilin Gogeri Chern Droben Chwiliantisilio Gogogoch in your best Welsh. So I will work on that pronunciation.
All right. That was awesome.
Then Nika Brika, member 6 months, $5. Here's a beverage for after Frankenstein's challenge.
You could use it. That was, I think I would have hurt myself if I tried to say that.
I got the first bit, Llanfair and Llantasilio Gogogoch, but I've got to get that middle bit.
Now I really hope they reach the goal, because now I want to hear what my dog has to say in that wonderful Welsh accent.
Then Dustin King, $5. Not that men don't have the right to an opinion, but why is it always guys calling and arguing for restricting women's rights? Yeah, we do. Us non-ovary havers do tend to stick our oars in quite a bit, don't we?
Yeah.
Then we've got, daisy, if I don't mess things up, we've got a Renegade Sapper, a new rule. The only men allowed an opinion on abortion of those who've had a vasectomy. Not a bad idea.
All right, I better shut up then.
Nitro, $5. Most abortions are aspiration, suction removal, or mifepristone, or mifepristol, which just stops the fetus from parasitizing the carrier. No killing. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not killing.
Okay.
Not nitro. It was Nero. Cancer can be an organism. If it goes rogue, it can function as a single-celled, independent parasitic organism. It happens fairly often, like in dogs. Absolutely true. I work for a cancer charity. That's why I use the example that by his definition, cancer could be classified as an organism. And then another fight from Renegade Sapper. Gohan went Super Saiyan science level derp. Not surprising. His dad, Goku, didn't even know sex was great, had his kids. I don't feel good about this joke. I feel good about that joke. And that brings us up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 $5 and up super chats. We are close to that thing.
Yeah, and I think while you were reading those, we had a couple more added in. We got one from Miranda Rensberger, member 6 months, for $5. Come on, everyone, 2 more super chats. Let's see the dog. And then lastly was Marcia Hefil. I'm going to apologize for mispronouncing your name. For $9.99, and good old US dollars. I think the hosts have the medical definition of abortion backwards. A live birth and an abortion are both terminations of a pregnancy, but a live birth isn't an abortion. Miscarriage is an abortion.
Oh.
Okay. I could be wrong on my definitions. I know that we do have some hosts that have a little bit more medical training that can perhaps offer an opinion on that. Any thoughts on that, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm always happy to be corrected. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to just be spouting misinformation. So, citation needed, and we will issue a correction if we're really off base.
For sure.
We would be hypocritical not to.
And that puts our total, by the way, at 9 out of 10 super chats. So we're just one away. You know what? Let's blow this goal out of the water. We're not going to stop at 10, right? Let's go 51 pieces of flair today, right? So don't just do the bare minimum, just like everyone else. We want to really, we really want to give my dog Digo a good welcome. So,
please don't make me laugh. You'll kill me.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So, but before we get into our next call here, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons. Yet another way that you can support the show and support the ACA in general is through Patreon. And we like to say thank you, especially to our top 5 patrons, actually top 6 would be. So our top 5 patrons for this week are number 1, Oops, All Singularity. Number 2, we have Kalevi Helvetti. Number 3, Dingleberry Jackson. Number 4, Left in the Leaves. At number 5, we have Brian Zupke. And with an honorable mention, Jessica Kopish, if I'm saying that correct. So thank you all for supporting us and allowing us to make these wonderful shows and share them with the world. So if you're interested in participating in our Patreon, you can go to tiny.cc/PatreonTH. And with that, I think we can go into our next call. This one is from an atheist caller, Cindy, she, her in Belgium. Cindy would like to talk about the 10 Commandments. Cindy, can you hear us okay?
Hi, guys. Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time.
Hey.
So what's on your mind about the 10 Commandments today?
So recently I've seen several shows, calling shows, talking about the 10 Commandments and, the different questions around this. And one of the questions was if you had to write 10 Commandments, what would it be? And I noticed that all the responses were like individual, like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And like, for example, when you have you shall not steal, I keep thinking about why don't we say you should build a society where stealing is not necessary? Like you should not, you should honor your father and mother, and instead, why don't we say you should build a society where parents and kids are protected? Like, why do you think the idea, everyone is thinking about individual commandments instead of help build a society, because we are humans, we're social species, and the commandments should be about what kind of society we build, and not just about control like it is now.
Right. So you bring up an interesting point there. If we're talking about an all-powerful creator of the universe, all-powerful and all-knowing creator of the universe, rather than create the universe and then say, don't do this thing or don't do that thing, why not create a situation where those things couldn't happen or where they wouldn't happen, right? Is that kind of what you're saying, Cindy? Or are you saying, why don't the people work? Why don't we as individuals being commanded by an all-powerful creator, why don't we work to avoid those, or what exactly is your spin on that?
Is psychologically, why are we driven to impose individual commandments instead of collective ones?
Well, collective, we make laws because we want to try and have some structure in our life. But commandments specifically, as in the 10 Commandments, I don't believe we should have commandments of that type because they are moral absolutism, and I don't believe in moral absolutes. I believe that every situation should be judged within a moral framework that we agree on, but should be judged on its own merits. And that's what, ideally, law and justice is about. It isn't always. But that's why we have things like precedent and case law, and you can retry things, and why things can get overturned, and laws can be repealed and replaced and updated, because every single person's morality is a little bit different. I may very much align with you on almost every moral issue, but we may have disagreements. So we have to try and have those Venn diagrams of everyone's morality overlap as best as possible. And that's how we come up with our laws and justice system. But if you're talking about a command from on high, these are our commandments that must not be broken, I don't think that that's a healthy concept for any civilization. I don't think commandments as a concept should exist.
Yeah, I would add on that, and I would say if you do have a commandment-based morality or legal system, or whatever level we want to approach this on, if it's based off of authoritarianism is what we're talking about here. We're talking about divine commands. We're talking about commands literally given to us from above. I mean, there's some drawbacks to that. Then if you misunderstand what those commandments are, you might have the best intentions of doing what's good and what's productive and what's helpful to the world. You could be doing damage just because you're not in a position where you can actually evaluate what's going on. You either do it or you're wrong, kind of a thing. You know, if you don't follow this commandment, you're doing something wrong, and it's cut and dry, black and white. No questions asked. But if you have more of a situation, which I think, Cindy, is what you're promoting here, if you have more of a situation where you speak more in generalities, and then the specifics can be derived from those generalities. And you know, I'm a math teacher in my day job, and we talk about that a lot. We talk about starting out with a general idea, and then you can often derive specifics from that generality. But going from the specifics to the generality can be challenging and can be fraught with errors and mistakes. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Cindy, or are you thinking something a little different than that? What is your take on this?
My take is that it's twofold. The first one is it shows how the Christian God is here to control people and not to help them get a good life, and we see that in many regards. But this idea of commandments, it's transparent here that this is the case. The other idea is that us humans, and more specifically us atheists talking to theists regularly, we integrated so much this idea that commandments exist, and that a lot of people live their lives according to them, that we don't even think about guiding our lives in a different way when we try to actually think about it.
Yeah, it seems that the justifying those decisions and justifying those laws or morals based off of a God, to me, almost seems like a cop-out. It seems like a lazy way of approaching it. Just say, oh, I'll just do whatever they say to do. It's kind of a way of avoiding the issue. And some of the things that, Cindy, that you're bringing up about developing humanity and society in general, rather than, it seems we're mostly focused on a control issue. You said the word control, and I think that's a key difference. Commandments are about control and obedience. Whereas if you had a different approach, that would be more consequent based. You know, we want to do what's best. We want to do what's going to be helpful and not harmful, and that kind of thing. And so I think that does point out a very big difference between a control and obedience based, quote unquote, morality and an altruistic or consequentialist approach to morality.
Yeah. And when building systems of control, it is far easier to make those commands personal. Thou shalt not, thou shalt, rather than we, you, yes, you won't do this. You will do this, because it's scary. You know, it's like you're being individually targeted. So you must obey. So it makes sense in the context of ancient civilizations using a concept of God to build a system of control to keep people in line, which was probably for the greater good at the time. Maybe, I don't know. We can argue the merits of religious dogma as a formation factor of civilization until we're blue in the face. But yeah, commands are about control. Commandments are about control.
However, that is an easy way for a society to do that kind of thing. I mean, we think if you're a parent, if you've ever said to your child, because I say so, you know firsthand about how vacuous that is. You know, saying because I say so normally is because you don't want to take the time to try to explain all of the, you know, the relevant decisions. No, I don't want you to run out into the street, because then you can get hit by a car, or you can cause an accident and have somebody else get hurt, things like that. It's easier to say that, or it's easier to just say, well, I'm the parent and I said no, and so that's what you must do. It's convenient and easy to have that obedience formed morality, but it's not quite as it doesn't quite give the protections in the long run, I don't think.
And then, of course, the extension on that is do what I say because I say so, and if you don't, I'll hurt you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and this difference between control and principle, it's the same difference between religious thinking and skepticism or critical thinking, and it's also the exact same thing between an authoritarian regime and democracy. And in one, you got authority that comes from up high, and on the other one, you have to find common ground with other people to determine what's the best way to reach your goals. And I think that goes deep into how humans think in general and all of psychology. But yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this, because it's all connected, basically.
For sure. And Cindy, I think I completely agree with pretty much everything you've said here on this. Jamie, any last comments on Cindy's call here?
No, I think that really covers it. Yeah.
All right, Cindy, did you have any last words before we wrap this up? I think we can maybe squeeze in another caller here.
No, I'll let you go to the last caller and give them time.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. I appreciate you calling in. Okay.
A real healing presence from that call.
Definitely. I definitely feel like I'm stronger after having encountered Cindy there. Okay, so let's I think we have time to squeeze in at least one more. I would like to what do you think? Should we go line 6 or line 8? Any preference, Jamie?
I'm going to leave it to you. I can't decide.
Okay. Let's go with Rob, him from Virginia. Rob wants to discuss our poll question. All right, awesome. Specifically, we can't grasp things that are beyond our human understanding. Rob, you're an atheist from Virginia. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing good.
All right, so what are your thoughts on the poll question there? I believe it was related to epistemology, right? What's more important, the way you come up with some beliefs or the content of the beliefs themselves?
Yeah, I think that what we actually believe is far more important than how we grasp it. Because, I mean, the way the poll question is framed, there's things that we can't grasp, and thinking that we can is just opposed to the notion that we can't grasp them. I mean, theists think that theists act like they can grasp the motives of God while still thinking that God is beyond their understanding. Mm-hmm. And I don't think atheists really from that problem.
Well, I think that anyone can believe a true thing for a bad reason. You can come to a true conclusion for a bad reason. Like if I learned that a truth, if I discovered that water boils at 100 degrees, but I believed that I knew that because the water fairies told me so, then I would have a true belief, but my epistemology would be flawed. I would have come to that conclusion badly. And what we're pushing up against is that if you're coming to correct conclusions through bad methodology, that bad methodology can also lead you to bad conclusions. Whereas a good epistemology, proper schools of thought, are more likely to have better success because those water pixies may also tell me to stab you. And you don't want me to have that belief either. So a bit of a silly example, but hopefully you get what I mean.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's kind of the same thing as how the Bible says that the Amalekites' children should be murdered, well, or killed at God's command. But at the same time, killing our own children is kind of a bad thing universally that we think nowadays.
You know, I think I would add on to this that I think the question is interesting because I think there's not necessarily a clear answer. I mean, certainly if I was standing on a bridge, for example, and there was a trolley coming and was going to run over some people, and, you know, I would be happy that I was not pushed off the bridge to stop the trolley. I would be happy about that regardless of the reasoning behind you know, the person deciding whether or not to push me off. Maybe they did an in-depth philosophical analysis of the situation and they weighed the pros and cons of each outcome and then decided not to push me off. Or maybe they decided not to push me off because their dog told them not to. Okay. So in both of those cases, I'm happy with the result in that I'm not getting pushed off. Of course, I would also feel bad for the people that, you know, did get hurt by the trolley. But, you know, that would be a case where the reasoning might be less important to me at that moment. But at the same time, I can say that it makes sense to value the approach to coming up with conclusions. Because as Jamie said, if we have a bad epistemology, even if we come up with a right conclusion on occasion, we're bound to have time, even if we come up to the right conclusion on almost every occasion, we're still open to the possibility that our next decision might be based off of faulty reasoning or might lead us to a more damaging outcome. And so you kind of lose control of the situation if you just say, I'm going to go with results only. Results are all that matter. And, you know, the ends justify the means, right? So we're happy with this particular law being stricken from the books. And so I'm going to support whomever wants to push that law. They're going to get my support, that kind of a thing. But on the other hand, we also have to take into consideration the effect that supporting that type of thought will have. You know, will it push other people to make bad decisions, or will it allow us to make bad decisions? Does that make any sense, Rob? Does that kind of jibe at all with what you're getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not trying to be contentious at all, and I can't disagree with anything you say.
So what do you think how does it come in about the things that are beyond human understanding? What does that add to is that like an acknowledgement? Is that like intellectual humility? Is that what we're talking about? And that we should not overstep our knowledge, or what is that? Should we take risks in situations where we don't have all the information? How exactly does that impact the calculus here that we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we do all take risks that defy our comprehension. We have no choice. We have to act as if we don't know what the future holds. And the idea that there's a God who's in charge of everything and that actually has decided or knows what the future holds and has decided that the future will contain what exists, and has decided that it's going to create things that it condemns on purpose, that it hates, doesn't make sense.
Yep. Well, one of the things, and this is my last thing to say, and I'll leave you at this. One of the wonderful things about things beyond human comprehension is that I always like to append that with, there are things beyond human comprehension for now. There are many things we didn't comprehend in the past and do now. I have massive optimism on the strength of human endeavor. So we may not know everything right now, but that doesn't mean we can't learn it in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that no gods exist. I could be wrong. That my opinion is based on what I know right now. That could change as time progresses. If there's a God and he decides to reveal himself, sure, okay, you're a God. Until then, yeah, I don't see much of a chance of that happening.
I mean,
You with us there, Jamie? You doing okay there?
yeah, I had it all held in for the whole show, and it just had to come out. So, but thank you very much for your call there, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. That was an interesting take on the question there. Appreciate your call. All right. So, and I think what I'd like to do at this point is I want to bring in our wonderful backup host, the ever erudite and always affable Richard Gilliver. Richard, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I was totally unprepared for you bringing him in.
That's why I jumped on that opportunity there. I was like, oh, I'm going to get him now.
Yeah, I made a few notes, as always. The first call, abortion, I was infuriated by him saying that he kind of sticking to the science and then largely making arguments that were completely outside of the science. Right. Eduardo, I love Eduardo. He's called the Atheist Experience a couple of times. He's such a nice guy, but his epistemology is terrible. Yeah, and you know, what he was talking about goes back to the old meme you may have seen with the number drawn on the ground and two people arguing, is it a 6 or is it a 9?
Right.
And you know, the correct answer is we don't know until we've properly invested the proper answers to that meme. Because the answer usually given is let's agree to disagree. Fuck that right off. That really gets on my tits. So the correct answer is let's investigate it together. Let's see if there are any witnesses who saw someone drawing it. Let's see if we can find the person who drew it and ask their contact. Let's see if there are any video cameras that saw it. Let's look for evidence to see if we can get a greater understanding. And until we have that greater understanding, then, you know, let's not hold a position on it. Cindy, she's just an old friend of mine anyway, so I love Cindy. So that's all I've got to say about that call. And Rob, that last call, I think epistemology is very, very important. I've wrote a couple of notes here because I couldn't remember the guy's name. Popper, the philosopher, who came up with the philosophy of, you know, scientific philosophy, he said, science often errs and pseudoscience may happen to stumble on the truth. Mm-hmm. It's a very important point to keep in. That's why epistemology is so important. You know, the way we come to conclusions is far more important than those beliefs we hold for X reason. Let's understand why we come to those conclusions, because otherwise we are in danger of believing pseudoscience just because it happens to fall upon the right answer. Very, very important point that Popper made regarding that. Great show, guys. Thank you, Jamie, for pushing through despite being.
Thanks for letting me muscle through. I really didn't want to miss it, and I'm hoping my malady didn't bring the show down.
Absolutely. Myself and Jamie, I'm not going to go too much into this, where we've got to wrap up with myself and Jamie. Met in real life recently and had a couple of drinks and a nice meal and had a great conversation with some Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. So I'll leave you to your imaginations what that went like. And I'm going to jump off out of here. Great show, guys.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
we might tell that story if you join us in the after show. But yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like that. And speaking of reaching goals, right? We have achieved our super chat challenge. We've received our 10th super chat here. Jamie, do you want me to read that, or do you want to read it off?
I got it. So no God required. I can't help but put us over the top hearing the gruff Limey voice a Welsh corgi in Pixar level stuff. Okay.
All right, and on that, let's bring up my dog Digo. Digo is a Pembroke Welsh corgi, and Digo, right in this picture, Digo is thinking what?
You promised that we'd go down to Starbucks so I could get myself a frappe mochaccino, but I'm sorry bereft of my caffeine intake, and if you lie to me like this again, I'll have your guts for garters, Daibach.
That was awesome, and I could totally see her saying that. That was dead on. Nice one, Jamie. Yeah, thank you for that, and thank all of you that sent in your super chats that allowed us to present this wonderful piece of entertainment for you. Just a quick reminder: Jamie and I are both going to be in the after show on ACD. You can find out information on how to join that at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. And so I just want to put out some love rings there for all of our viewers and all of our corgi friends out there. Little love rings to everybody. And with that, I'll close with saying, if you don't believe, this is your community, and we appreciate you being here. We love having you around and the community that you help us create. But if you do believe, we don't hate you.
I'm just not convinced, Colonel.
Thank you.